Hi everyone.
Hello, we're back. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, any questions? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead with the next topic. Right. So far we have seen views and view operators and so on. Right. And in views, one more topic is there, which will come, which is associations, which is an important topic which we will cover. But there is something that people easily confuse between the views and data flows, especially because there are many similarities between the views and data flow, right? And that's why I want to cover this first, and then we will go to the view topic. So first, what are data flows, right? So if I have data in one source, so it can be a virtual source like a remote table, or it can be also another view. It can be a physical table. Anything can be a data source, right? Wherever data can be read, it can be a data source. So if you see here, all of this, right? So this is the view we just created, sales order view. So that can be a source, and these are some physical tables. So they can be a source, and there can also be remote tables, right? So they can also be a source, etc. And if you expand this, it will show like whichever is view, it will show as view, and then here also it will tell like the symbol also say it shows which is view and which is table. So anything can be a source, but what can be a target, right? So for example, if I drag something in, the moment I drop it, right? So if I'm dropping a table, right? So it asks me two things. So whether it is a source or a target, right? So whatever structure can physically store data, only that can act as both source and target, right? So if I drop a view, it doesn't ask that question, right? Whereas if I drop a table, it asks that question whether it is a target. So and if you accidentally click it outside, that's fine, because here in that properties again you have the option use a source at target, right? So that is one of the fundamental differences, right? So in a data flow, the data is read from somewhere, and then some transformations are done, and then it is returned to a physical source, right? So it has to return, it has to write the data to somewhere, right? So that's the first thing. In a view, there might not be any actual data movement, right? So in a view, if you materialize the view, yes, the data will be stored in the view, but actually it's not like a data pipeline where you are reading data from one or multiple sources, and then you are applying some transformations, and then you are writing it to a source. No, but you are just, in a view, you are just seeing the data, whereas in the data flow, you are actually moving the data. Okay.
But will that
So
be
with
a source and target? Because if you, as you're saying, physical storage can be a source and target, then what views can be? Only target or only what can that be? Or no options are there, as you are
in
saying.
view there is no in view there is no option because there is no data movement. So if you
Okay.
materialize the view, it is kind of it is storing the data. If you don't materialize the view, it is not storing any data. It's just storing the query.
Okay.
Okay. So now here, for example, I want the sales order view. I'm including it here, and then I want to create a target table. Uh, so I can create any target table. So or I can use an existing target table. So if I have an existing target table, I can just drag and drop that. For example, if this I want to be my target table, I can drag and drop that and say target, and I can link it like this, right? So if I don't have an already planned target table, if I'm doing something in the view, in the data flow itself, and I want to generate a target table, I can basically click this and drag down. And here also, when you join, it will automatically generate the columns. So whatever columns are coming in that incoming line, so they will be automatically added. Now, like in the view itself, here are also some operators. So we have join, we have union, we have projection, we have calculation, and we have Python script, right? So that is the next difference. So in the view, the only programming language available is SQL script, right? And SQL, which is kind of not programming, it's a query language. The only programming language available to do some kind of advanced data cleaning is only through SQL script, which we will see some SQL scripts how to build that. But there is no Python or there is no JavaScript, etc., to do advanced data filtering, cleaning, etc. Whereas in data flow, we have this script operator, right, where you can write Python script. So for example, I am not connecting this to directly. So here I want to have some transformations using Python. Then what I can do is I can do something like this, and here in this I can go and I can start writing Python script. And here they have given a description of what is available in the Python script. So they are saying that. So how many of you already know Python?
I know.
Not like expert level, just basics I know.
Okay. So here, generally in Python, we have pandas, which is very popular when it comes to all this data frames, transformation, and everything. So here also, inside this Python script, you cannot write, anything. There are two libraries, the NumPy and Pandas, and they are already imported with aliases NP and PD. And some of their functions can be used within this. And this is if you know Python syntax, you will know that this is a function. This is the function definition, and it is taking a input data frame, which is called data, and then it again returns the data frame, which is also called data. So basically, if I go to the graphical view, you see that it has an input node and an output node. So what happens is, so it takes a data frame as the input to the function. So this is a Python function. So that's why it looks like a Python, it's look like a function. So the function takes one argument exactly, which is a data frame, and that is this data, and then it returns another data frame, which is also data. So in between, in that function body, we can use the various pandas functions which are related to data frames for all this, filtering, creating new columns, doing some complex logic, some things like that, date time manipulation, some things like that can be done within this body. So this is just a comment section. So if you don't want, you can remove it, or it doesn't hurt to keep it also. Anyways, the interpreter will ignore that comment section, and whatever you want to do, you can do here as the data frame. So that data which is coming in, you can do some scripts here. So if you directly go to script also, it will show this section only. And if you go to columns, you will see all the columns that are listed there. Right, so we'll come to discuss this Python data frames in detail. But before that, I wanted to show that this is one of the differences between the view and data flow, right? Here you have an additional programming language to do some things which you cannot do in views. And again, coming to the joins and unions, right? For example, I am going to include that same two tables. I think the sales order and sales order item. So see, here I cannot drop on top of that, right? So if you are used to views, so you will try to drag and drop on top of that, but it doesn't work that way. Here, you have to drag the join operator, and that takes two nodes. So if you are coming from some ETL background, right? So Alteryx, Informatica, business, BODS, something like that, you would have already seen this type of configuration where you have different nodes, right? Where you create the ETL flow. So same way here also we have join as a node, and then I can connect different tables to that. So that again is a little bit different from the view. In view, I directly drop my second view on top of first view and then choose whether it is, a join or union. And then here coming to the join itself. So do you remember how many type of joins are available in the view? You
See, left,
Or I think
left
inner-
join, right join, left out. I mean, inner join, cross join. You can say
So-
temporal join.
Four, I
but
think.
in views only 5 are available. So
Yeah,
yeah,
five.
like you said, the primary 4 and then the cross join 5. So which are available. So if we can quickly verify. But here, if you see inner, left outer, right outer, only 3 are available, right? So that is your next challenge to figure out. For example, in the data flow, you require to do mostly cross join will never be required in a business scenario, mostly 99% of the time. And but outer join can be required sometimes in business. Again, very rare, but sometimes can be required. So that's your second, assignment. The first assignment, I hope you remember, right? So I had a question about the union. So inside the union, you know how to avoid duplicates with union and union all. But I wanted to add the duplicates, sum them up and then give that as the result. So someone was on the right track. They said, you have to use aggregation. So go ahead and solve that, and let's see how you would solve that. That was using these two data sources, right? Now here what I want to solve that is, again, you will not be required to do this as part of your job. Mostly you will be using inner or left outer. Even right outer is not logically required, because you can just always swap the order and use left outer itself to serve the purpose. But my question is, here there is no full outer join itself, right? So with that limitation, there is a way to actually solve it. So let me see if you can think about the solution and solve that in data flow, so that in the end, the result that is coming up is a full outer join result, right? Let's see who solves it. And if you have any ideas, if you want to share now to help others, that's also fine. Yeah, anyone, any ideas to get full outer? So here is the 5 joins: cross, full, inner, left, right. So there in data flow, we have only inner, left, right. The first two are not available. And most of the time in data flow, yeah, they are not required also. But yeah, so if you think about the full outer join, it is nothing but, if you logically think, I'm saying, full outer join is nothing but the left outer join plus the right outer join, right? So it's basically the union of left outer join and the right outer join. It's not the union all, it is just the union of left and right outer join. So if you think about it that way, right, then you should be able to solve this. So say full outer is just a union of left outer and right outer. So with that, you can try and figure out and build a data flow that acts like that. Right. So now again, like the join operator itself, we have the union operator also, which you can drag and drop. And again, it takes two nodes as input and it gives one node as output. And whenever you don't have space, you can always close either the repository, or you can always close the details and bring them up when required, right? And if you want to rearrange things, you can rearrange with this. That will give you a nice layout. Okay, so again, in union, there is no difference than the union that you see. So we have option for both union and union all, which you can do. Having some trouble speaking. Okay, so now I have a join, right? So here another difference is, here we are talking about data flow, and here you do not have like a view, you do not have the cardinality, distinct value, all that coming into picture, right? So again, that is another difference. Now, can someone tell me why the data has to again be joined, and why is there no option here to talk about the cardinality, or whatever we said that will help query performance doesn't seem to be here? Do you know why?
Inner join, is it?
No, in general. So, for example, here in inner join or any type of join, here we said there are options like distinct value, and then
Correct.
choosing the cardinality, etc., which is for performance, right?
Correct.
So here in data flow, we don't have any such option, right? So even in advanced properties, yeah, it gave you away. It gave it away. But yeah, so if you see here, there is an automatic optimization for the joins in data flow, right? So you don't have to do any of that. And if you click here, yeah, this was the link I was going to share. Now they have included the link there itself. So if you click here, here are some design considerations. So we have a separate session on this for not only joins, for all types of design considerations, right? But basically, yeah, so here you don't have to do a lot of things if you leave it in automatic. But if you are going for manual, then there are some settings like caching and ranking and all that, and they have explained what they are basically. So cache, by the name itself what is that, but rank, you can understand from here what is it going to be. So yeah, you read about it, and this is basically coming from data intelligence documentation, right? So we can see here data intelligence cloud, so which was another cloud product from SAP, and nowadays it's not that popular, or it's not that talked about, uh, right? And most of the features are coming one by one into datasphere, right? So yeah, this one of the reasons for you to check the data intelligence documentation is uh, some of the concepts in datasphere are kind of borrowed from data intelligence. So again, answering the question here, here you do not have to do the analytics type of join optimization, because here it is not about analytics. Again, the data is being read from different sources and it is being transferred, but here it's more about transferring the data from somewhere to somewhere. And that's why, like, again, here also is an optimization option is there, but mostly it is set to optimized, and you can leave it as it is. Only thing that you have to care about here is the join definition, right? Again, an auto matcher will try to match the columns, but again, you have an option to override the settings. Here, if you come to the join definition, same way you can have different columns, and here is the auto mapper. So if you click that button, it will do the auto mapping. And yeah, again, if you're familiar with uh, other SAP's data tools, you know how it works. But for others who are not familiar, I have to go through this because, yeah, I mean, some of you might find it very basic, but for some of you, you will not know that auto mapping button exists without going to that full screen, right? So if you go to the full screen, yes, you see that. But sometimes if you have many columns to do the mapping, if I didn't show you, you don't know that this exists. Okay. So that's about joins. And next one was union. Again, I'm not explaining it to you because, again, you can drop two tables, connect the two nodes, and if you take the resulting output, it is going to be a union. And coming to projection, so this is again a small difference between the view and the data flow, right? So we saw that in a view, when I joined two views, immediately a projection was also available, and that projection did something for us, right? So it filtered. For example, here there are 3 columns, here there are 4 columns, but in the result there is no 7 columns, just 6 columns, right? Because it took out the common column. So the sales order ID, which is common in both tables. So here the join itself handled it, right? So if you see here, there is a excluded column basically. So if I want, I can add it, but the system actually handled it for me. And like that, here I don't have to go for a explicit projection to basically remove some columns, right? Because in the join itself, in this node itself, for example, I don't want sales order ID, or I don't want order date, something, for example, right? I can just say remove column. Right? And same way, uh, if I don't want, if I want to rename something, I can just rename from here, right? Uh, so again, some of you might figure this out, but I have seen the bad pattern where people, they are used to projection, so they do this, and then if you go into the projection and see, all they have done is they have just wanted to exclude some column and rename some column. So that is another difference between the operators in the data flow and the join, right? So again, it can go on the top of your head, if you don't click and see all these options. So basically, whatever the projection does, right? So which is like excluding some column or changing the name, it can be done directly in the join. And by default, the join also excludes the common that column, which is the join condition. So yeah, these are some subtle differences between the view and the data flow. But yeah, logically, I hope you all understand the difference. So data flow is more like you are designing an ETL process where you are actually moving the data. Join is just that instead of writing SQL select statement, you are using a graphical editor, which happens to look very similar to this, So that's why the confusion in the first place. But two different tools for two different aspects. So that's the logical understanding. But coming to the system level, the differences. So these are some of the differences. So the join type, few join types will be missing, right? And the nodes, you can do certain things here for in the join itself, right? So if I go here to the inner join, right, and then I want to exclude some column, there is no option for me to exclude some column. Or if I want to rename, if I try double click or something, I don't have an option to rename, etc., right? So it's basically here the join is only allowing us to do the mapping, right? So then we have projection to do all the other things like exclude column and change name, etc. Whereas here it's a little bit different. Here the joining, yes, it allows the mapping, but other than that, it kind of has a projection in itself. So coming from the BODS side of things, so from data intelligence or BODS side of things, where this node itself supports these kind of parts. So any questions so far? Okay. So now again, another difference is, can you see data preview? Here is the preview panel. So I am keeping it on the join. So here it says data preview is not available for this operator. Right? So if I go to sales order, it will show because that is a source. If I go to this, it will show because that is also a source. And if I have a target which is already deployed and that has some data, that will also show. So let's put a target. Select this join node to that.
That means the function do not have, only the source and targets have the data flow.
Data preview.
Yes, data preview.
Yes, correct. And here, whenever you are putting a target, if you have put a new target table, so you have the option to create and deploy, right? So you can create and deploy. So which will create that table in your space and deploy it. So once it deploys also, you're not going to see any data because it's a new table. So only after you run it the first time, right? So you will actually see the data. And this will be kind of hard transition between a view and data flow, because in a view you have this nice experience of trial and error. So you do something and then you see that how that is going on, right? So if you tried InnerJoin and you verify what happened, and then you add a calculation or you add a projection and you verify what happened, it's kind of like an instant feedback, right? In data flow, yeah, most of the time that type of instant feedback is not available. But let's deploy this. Already exist TF2. So now it is deployed. So now do we have the data? No, because again, it's a data flow, right? So you have to execute it for it for this. This is kind of like a data pipeline, and the data should actually run through this pipeline and reach the target. So for that, you have to at least execute it once. Right? So once you execute, once the run completes, then the data will go through all the operations you define and reach the target. So again, we already discussed about the target modes and so on, the append mode, uh, truncate mode, delete mode, and so on. But yeah, the only thing, yeah, you can use upsert if your target table has a key column. Right? So in my target table, I did not define a key column, so that's why it doesn't allow using the upsert. But if I go have the sales order or something as my key column, then I can have this happening. So yeah, we already talked about all this, but yeah. So let's now you see that now the data is there. Right? So now I can verify. Okay, so it was supposed to do an InnerJoin. So now it has done an InnerJoin. Right. So I do not have the instant feedback which I have in graphical view, and that can be a somewhat of a hard transition because if you're new to the ETL tool, and if you're doing a lot of graphical views, it will feel kind of difficult to do the data flow because you will get more used to the way in which the view works. So yeah, so that are some of the main differences that comes to my mind, right, between the views and data flow. And if you some of you have some other points, because I know that some of you have already used datasphere, right? So if you have any other points, please add. Okay, so any questions? Okay.
No.
Okay. So now coming to the monitoring aspects of it, right? And so you can go directly from here to the data flow monitor, or we have under data builder, uh, we have something called as data integration monitor. So that's where we monitor everything. And last time someone was asking me, some tables they have loaded data, some tables they have not. And I was searching, like somehow I forgot where to look for that. So it is also in the data integration monitor itself. So if you have local tables, right? So if you go to this local tables tab, here you will exactly find all the tables and the number of records and the size and everything, right? And here also you can do selective deletion. Right? So if I go here to a particular table, so if I just click delete records, it will delete all records, or I can go to filter and I can apply some filters based on all the columns in the table. And before even deleting, I can click show preview and I can preview and then I can delete something that I don't want, right? So you can do the selective deletion also. So yeah, this was a question from someone, which I forgot to answer that day. So this is the answer basically, right? And this local table is also important because it shows which process updated it. For example, um, the sales order TF is the target table. I don't know why I named like that. So very bad naming. Right. So this is the name of the table, not the data flow. This is the name of the data flow, df2. So it is basically saying my target table has 4 records and it was last loaded by this data flow. Sometimes what happens, there will be multiple data flows affecting a same target table. Like in BW, you will have multiple process chains that use the same data providers, right? So same way, if you want to check what failed, you can check what failed. So same way here also you will have the whichever is the thing that updated it the last, and you can go and you can check that. But now we are coming to that only. So this is just at a table level view, but you can directly go to the flows, and then here we have all types of flows. So we basically have 3 types of flows: data flow, replication flow, and transformation flow. So each type of flow, when you run it, not when you create it, when you run it, they will have some logs that are getting created here. And if they are scheduled, it will show the next run also. So now I have just run it once, so it is not showing the next run. But for example, if I schedule it and if I put it maybe daily once and say create, so you can see that.
This is
Okay.
similar to APD, right? The
Yeah.
way you're running is somewhat similar to APD.
Yeah. Analytic process. Yeah. So so here you can check the frequency as a preview, right? So it basically says at 12 o'clock on every single day, start date, and there is no end date and who created it, all that. And here exactly you will see when is it going to trigger the next time, right? And for some reason you want it, to start with checkup, right? So what is checkup? So when you are having a data flow which is running, so if you go here there are some log information, right? So there are different categories of log information. Like there is very detailed log information, and then there is like only certain level of log information, right? By default, it gives certain level of messages here, so which are categorized as information, and warnings and errors will also appear here. But if for some reason you want even more because something is going wrong and you think that having more logs you will be able to figure out something, right? And we'll come in a minute, there are different aspects in this logs which will come to that. But for if you want more logs, then while running you can say run with checkup, and then that will give you even more detailed logs, right? I can run it. This is very short data flow, so it will run quickly. And in the middle of some run is happening, if you want to stop, you can click this. It's like a kill button, so it will terminate. If some job is long running, you don't like it, you can kill it. And sometimes that kill will result in log errors. And unlike BW or something, here there is no way for you to go in and release the logs. So if you kill something and then you try to rerun it, and you see that in the rerun, the status is saying acquiring log failed or failed due to log, something like that, you have to wait. You have to wait for a couple of hours. You have to wait for 1 day. Usually the log gets released on its own. They have some expiry time or something, and then the HANA clears the log. But yeah, if you run out of luck and it's more than 1 day and you are triggering again and it is again failing lock, then you have to report to SAP, right? Okay, let's refresh. Let's see if it completed. Yes, it completed. So now, in this already it was giving all these information levels. So it was not giving any additional information. But yeah, in a very big data flow, generally it will only show few messages. But if you run with, the check, it will give you more messages. So that way we can figure out if something is going wrong. And now coming to this log itself, there are different things that you can see here, right? So basically you have this header section where it says what is the status, how much total duration it took, and what is the start time, what is actually it has ended. Okay, so end date and who triggered it, and run type, whether I directly triggered it, or the data flow and all the other flows can be part of a task chain. So we have not seen what is a task chain yet, but yeah, they can all be part of task. Now only the run is completing. So, yeah, completed. So they can all be part of a task chain. So in that case, it will show like how it got triggered, right? So all that and all this information you can also download. Why do you want to download? Sometime when you are reporting bug to SAP, they will ask for this information. Sometime they will directly use the support user and they will only check the logs. But sometimes they will ask for the log information. So generally, for example, if you are saying that a data flow is frequently failing, or a data flow has a lock issue, and you want help from SAP. So I would recommend while you are creating the ticket itself, download this and put it there. Irrespective of whether they ask, they don't ask, you don't care about it. If you want to save some time, download it, put it always. Like when you create a ticket, always try to see whatever. So even all the things that we have seen so far, right? All the views, flows, everything that we have seen and we are going to see, that whenever you find this type of export support information kind of button, usually it's a good practice to export it and put it there, right? So it will help them and it will not hurt them, and at times it will save you some days of going back and forth. Okay, those are the things in the top. So this is basically full screen button. And coming to this one here, so we have a couple of important things. So the first thing is this SQL statement, right? In the view and all, we could have directly seen what is the SQL there itself. So here itself I can see the SQL, or here also I can go to share button and preview SQL, right? So here the SQL I can directly see. I can say that it's a big select statement. So in the data flow also, I can see what is the SQL statement that is happening. So basically, it's a big insert statement. Or, if you have checked the update. So again, another assignment I'll add to today's session. So you create one data flow where the target, you are using different options like the append and then the upsert and the truncate, and then run that and come and see the generated SQL. And maybe tomorrow we'll discuss. I'll ask questions like, okay, if you do that, what is the SQL generated, etc., so that you will know exactly what's happening. So this is the append mode. So it is basically insert, right? All insert statements. So inside the insert, it is doing nothing but, this is the big insert statement. So inside the insert, it is doing nothing but a select statement, because we have only one join operator. So in the join operator, we joined two sources, right? Source 1 and source 2. So it is basically doing source 1, inner join, source 2 on sales order ID equal to sales order ID. Basically, that's all, right? So that's the first thing you can check, the SQL statement. The second thing is, so here again, I don't know why they have this specific button, but usually you can see the duration here also, 56. But here also, you have the data flow, the time taken, right? And here, this is called a correlation ID. Sometimes when you are reporting a bug to SAP, sometimes even when some things fail, you will see a red color toast message appearing here on the system, which will show that when you contact SAP administrator, you give them this correlation ID, right? So same way, when you are reporting an incident or something, it's a good idea to also put this correlation ID, right? That again helps SAP to investigate your issue. So because whenever a data flow is running, it has a task ID like this, task 1621 some number. But once it stops running, there will not be any ID. So there will be only log files, and inside the log file, this correlation ID will be useful for someone who is analyzing the log files, right? So from someone who is at SAP, if you give them this, then they can filter based on this and find your respective logs. So those are all the details here which are available. Now coming to the metrics. So why is there no metric? Yeah, so here. So coming to the metrics. So if you see here, basically the most important metric that you will be interested about is the record count, right? So in each layer, like what is the record count and how much is it? So here it is saying recording. We are unable to retrieve the record count because the flow has been optimized for better performance, right? So I don't know why they did that, but yeah. So it used to show, but now maybe SAP has done some improvement. Maybe they find that putting all record counts takes more time for the data flow or something. But yeah, usually it will show all the record counts for all the different operators where the record counts make sense, right? And especially we will be interested in the target record count. So if a data flow runs, we want to understand how many records it brought in. So that you can see from here in the metrics section. Yeah, so that's about everything. So if you want to directly go to this data flow in the editor, you can go here, click the open in data builder, that opens it. This is for refreshing. If it is a currently running thing, this is for refreshing. This we already saw, create schedule, and the con simple, all that we already saw, right? And if there is a current schedule, you can edit or delete it. If there is no schedule, you can create it. So I will delete my current schedule. I don't want something to keep on running in the system. Okay. And then this is a one-time run, right? So the schedule is like scheduling something irrespective of whether you are there or not, it will run. But this is like a one-time run. And when you are coming to the schedule thing, right, in DataSphere, they have a concept of this consent, right? So without the consent, these jobs are going to fail. The tasks. Yeah. So if you see here, consent expiration, you can check the list of users whose consent will expire in less than 4 weeks. So when I click view expiration date, so there is no one whose consent is going to expire. So if you generally see, like the first time you are logging into DataSphere, a pop-up will appear. It will ask for your consent. It will say that whenever you schedule something in whichever space you have access to, you are giving consent that the background job or the background user or the background process can run it on behalf of you, right? So without you being there or without you not being there. So it is a good thing to check this consent because there is some validity. So usually I think 6 months or 1 year, something like that. There is a validity. So when the consent expires, uh, those jobs will fail, right? So for example, if you are a person who is building the data flow, but you are not going to maintain it. For example, I am from one consulting company, Capgemini or something. We go in, we build everything, we hand over, and then we come. Okay. So if that is the case, and then there is a company B who takes over, who maintains the operations. And if some things, at one time, bulk of things fail in the system, a lot of task chains, data flow, some things are failing, and it is saying that consent expired. So basically, this is the thing, consent expiration. So in general, yeah, it's how they have designed DataSphere. So yeah, you have to be aware of this, and then you have to check whoever is concern is expiring, and basically they will also get a mail. But as a system administrator, you can also see or run this report and then find out who is affected and what tasks are going to get affected proactively before it starts failing. Yeah, other than that, here when coming to the task in general, here is the log storage, right? So again, the logs will usually take a lot of storage. So this is a training and practice system. So you see very little log here, but generally in a production system, you will see that it quickly expands. So every day it expands and so on. So that's why we have this housekeeping, job, which will delete the run logs. Right. So in general, yeah, it is set for 6 months, 180 day. So it will clean up the detailed logs for 30 days, and it will clean up the run logs older than 180 days. So if you want to change this for some reason, you want to make it low, or if you want to make this high, yeah, know that there will be implications on the space that is being used. And if you manually want to delete something, yeah, there is a job which is scheduled and which is running. But for some reason, you quickly want to delete something, then you have an option here to put a date and then choose and then run, and that will delete the run logs. Yeah, so that is about the data flow and the integration, the integrated data flow monitor. So, any questions on this?
And not now. Well, we have to come back.
Not on this. Like when we create a user in, like when we create a space management space, in space management we create a space, then we normally create a user also with space roles, right? Spaced roles.
Mhm.
So that time
Scope.
when we create a user, sorry, scoped roles, yeah. So when we create a user, that time it is prompting to select the kind of role
Okay.
the user has to have, right?
This log yours, you're coming to this log.
No, not log. I'm not talking log. So it is prompting radio buttons with the different authorizations, right? Like DB administrator or data speed. I mean data speed administrator or whatever. Like it is prompting few. So that time, I mean here it is checkbox, but I think just a minute. I think I forgot that screen. 1 minute. Just 1 minute.
Mhm.
I think it is. I'm able to select only one role there, not multiple. So
Can you share your screen? Maybe you have only one role for that space.
yeah, 1 minute. I'll first of all, I think I took a screenshot. I forgot that.
Okay.
Yeah. So you go to security and roles. Security and roles. And can you come down? Yeah, create a new scope role is there, right? I think, yeah. So enter something here. Then create, oh, you are getting create option. I am not getting, I think, yeah. So here, see, it is, it's a radio button. We cannot send multiple, right? So a user can be a modeler, can be a consumer, can be an administrator, or can be multiple also. So how can we select multiple options here? In case
So
I
the idea is if someone is an administrator, they will have also modeler and viewer role. So if someone is a modeler, they will automatically have viewer role. So if they are, so it's kind of in a hierarchy. So viewer has the least role, modeler has somewhat more role, and administrator has somewhat more role. But I understand your question. Like if you require a combination of scoped roles to be selected, then you do not select it here. Here always it's a one-to-one mapping. One scoped role is always mapped to one standard role. But the user to role mapping, yes, when you are adding, to a space management, maybe there you can, like I just now showed, when you select a user and when you go to the role screen, there you can select a multiple roles there.
Okay.
But yeah, your question is right. Like here, you will always have one-to-one role mapping. So one scoped role is always some customer standard one role.
Okay. Maybe I need to go through these each options actually. Because I think the modeling part which you are showing is almost similar to HANA modeling.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you.
Okay. So I will take another 5 more minutes before we leave for today. So we'll talk about task chain, just an introduction to task chain, and then we can close the session. But I don't know if someone has already dropped off. I don't think so. Yeah, all 15 are here. Okay. So the task chain is nothing but like a process chain. So it will collect different other flows that we create, and then it will run them, parallelly or sequentially. Right. So, for example, I have created only one data flow so far. So if I drag and drop it, right, so it gets added. So if I have multiple things, I can drag and drop them also, and then I can decide whether I want to do, do them parallelly or do them sequentially and so on. So this is like the parallel. So where I can drag and drop other things to that, right? Or if I wanted sequential, I can, do like this. and so on, right? But what is, the purpose of the task chain is to logically order things. For example, you have first first step of master data loading, and then you have transaction data loading, and only if master data is successful, then the transaction data load should run, and the master data load can happen in parallel. uh, they don't have any dependencies like that. So with all that in mind, first you will create all the data flows. So you will create, for example, we'll go into more scenarios after we talk about all these pieces. That time we'll get the actual picture. But now this task chain is a object in datasphere which is used to design the overall chains, right? So in general, you will not, mostly 99 or 95% of the time, you will not be scheduling data flows, right? So if it's a very specific single data flow, it has no dependency, yes, you will directly schedule the data flow. But in general, if you have a sequence of things happening, for example, first you load all the master data, you load text tables, and then you load transaction table, etc. Then yes, you will create the data flows, but you will not schedule them individually. Instead, you will come create a task chain. You will create all the dependencies. So it will be generally like, 3 or 4 parallel executions. So we will have 3 or 4 parallel master data first loading, and then we will be loading that 4 master data text tables, and then we will be going to combine all of them. If they pass, then we will be doing the transaction data load. And after we design the task chain, it deploy, and then task chain will schedule it. And when you see the in the run book, in the run logs and all, you will see that in, even though it's a task chain that is running, it will give you, I mean, the data flow also, it will show which ran the data flow, and in the task chain also, in the log, it will show what are the data flows that are being run as part of the task chain. Right. Again, if you are from any of the the SAP BW or something, this is very similar to process chain. So I have run it. So now let's go to the integration monitor. So if you see here, so under task chain, so if you see the structure, so this is a task chain, and I can see that the type here itself. So it can run other data flow, and I can click view monitor, and that can directly take me to the data flow monitor also. If I go to the general, the overall data integration monitor, and if I go to flows, so I can see that in the data flow. So it has not done yet. So if it completes, yeah, we will see that how it got triggered and all that. And here also, we can check, there is a section called task chain. There also we'll see that there is a connection to the data flow. Okay, so that is basically the task chains. So we will see more about it. But as an introduction of what is task chain, this is task chain. So any questions on this?
This is like your process chain, right? Task chain is say you create all multiple tasks and run that in the schedule. That's
Yes.
what you do.
Yes, and you the main aspect is you give the dependencies. You say that okay, so this should be successful, then this should run.
Exactly. That is like a process chain. If one process is successful, do this, otherwise do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And in process chain, we have a concept of this meta chains, right? So you can put one process chain inside another process chain. So the same way in the task chain also it is possible. So for example, just now we created one task chain called task chain 1. So I am in a new task chain. So now in this, I can also drag and drop other task chains. So ideally, I can create 2-3 smaller chains, and then I can put them all together in a bigger chain instead of making one chain very complex and ugly, like so many parallel things and so many so deep and so on. I can create so whatever is viewable as one chain, and then that can go and sit nicely inside a bigger chain.
So the good practice is that we should schedule the data flow in task and not schedule the data flow independently.
Yeah, I mean the good practice, not from the good
Yeah,
practice aspect. for the ease of maintenance. So, for example, if I have 5-6 data flow, it's very hard for me to check each of the data flows, schedule it, and maintain it, and so on.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yes.
one task chain is easier to maintain.
Yes. So we will push. We will place all the data flows in one task chain.
Yeah, most of the related data flow. So if you have one data flow that is not related to anything, that's very independent. Sometimes I see the bad practice, like people creating task chain just to run one data flow. That is like doing over work. So in that case, you can directly schedule the one data flow. So if you have some at least 2-3 data flow which are related, then yeah, task chain makes more sense.
Yes. Thank you.
Someone else was saying some question. Okay, so if there are no questions, then we can
I think
close.
just a normal thing. Do you have any document kind of hands-on or something, step-by-step document kind of stuff to follow?
Yeah, I'll share you.
Okay.
Not today. Maybe I'll get it to you by the next week, or yeah, I will get it to you by next week.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, let's meet tomorrow.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.